So welcome, Alexis from the Warrior Canine Connections. We're so happy to have you join our community day.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. And actually, Tina, can you make me co-host again? Because yeah. And then Walter's Kong is the orange one. Sorry. Sorry, we're just giving all the dogs Kongs so that they can settle a little bit faster. Wanted to say thank you, everybody, for being here. And before we get started, we do have one thing for you guys to fill out, which is our demographics form. And I'm going to copy and paste that into the chat. And basically, it just helps us figure out who's watching. Like, are there any, for example, are there any veterans in the audience? That's something else that we'd like to keep track of. And so I copied the demographics form for you all. It should be pretty straightforward to fill out. If you're not comfortable giving us your email address, that's okay. You can just put like not comfortable, 3 random numbers and at notcomfortable.org or something. Yeah, what's more important is just sort of like, are you a veteran? Are you a civilian? Are you military connected? So thank you very much. All right, and okay, slideshow play from start. All right, so can everybody see my screen okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you guys so much. So I just want to start out with saying thank you for attending. We really appreciate it. And we appreciate all of your support, and we appreciate the support that we get from the Veterans Memorial Senior Center, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So the form, the demographics form that I sent you guys looks a little bit like this. There will be one more form to fill out at the end of the session, but that'll be a different form, and I'll talk about that more later on. So just, you know, first, last name, state, things like that. Age, gender, branch of service, era of service. So I'll start with the introduction. So I'm Alexis. I'm the California program manager, and I'm a service dog training instructor. This is my co-trainer, Shelly Smith. So she's a service dog training instructor, and she works a lot with our puppy parents as well. The current dogs that we have in training right now and that are in the room with us are Walter. He's a black Labrador retriever. Purple, she's a yellow Labrador retriever. And Nathan, he's also a yellow Labrador retriever. And then we have a recent graduate, Frank. He's a cream golden retriever, and he graduated as a facility dog, and he was placed locally in San Jose at a homeless shelter called Home First, and he's working predominantly with their veteran population. And so we'll talk a little bit more about what facility dogs do a little bit later, but that's just something I wanted to highlight because we're really excited and happy for him. So this will be an overview of what we're talking about. So our outline, the mission of Warrior Canine Connection and what we do. We'll talk about our programs. We'll talk a little bit about how the Veterans Memorial Senior Center has helped us. And I have a very short video filmed with me doing some dog training just outside at the Veterans Memorial Senior Center with one of our veterans. We'll talk about the impact on veterans, understanding the human-animal bond, different types of placement, how to apply for a service dog or how to name a dog, and how you can help if you decide you want to help us. Of course, helping the Veterans Memorial Senior Center also helps us. So if you want to help them instead, that's great too. So, so our mission is twofold. One, it's to alleviate the symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder and traumatic brain injury through the experiential learning of how to help train service dogs for a fellow warrior, and to place highly trained service dogs with veterans in need. So we aim to provide a critical military supported mission for veterans and service members to help a fellow wounded warrior. We offer a safe and effective and inexpensive non-pharmaceutical adjunctive therapeutic intervention. We support and facilitate current therapeutic modalities and programs. So we often work with providers around their treatment plans, and we can sometimes tailor when we're working with a provider, like a mental health therapist or a recreational therapist, we can sometimes tailor like what we do in the dog training so that it is easy for the provider to make bridges to what their treatment goals are. And sometimes they find that veterans are more motivated to come to attend when there's a dog present as well. We work on building transitional skills and promoting mindfulness while helping fellow warriors. We also produce highly trained dogs. I don't know how to go back in my slides. Hold on, sorry about that. So we also produce highly skilled service dogs for veterans with physical disabilities or with psychiatric disabilities. And then by participating in the training of a future service dog, most individuals may find this to be a meaningful opportunity to engage in continuing mission of service to benefit another veteran. And if any of you do any volunteer work, you know that engaging in that volunteer work can help just add and make our lives a little bit more full. So who we are. So Warrior Canine Connection, we're a 501c3, we're a nonprofit. We were founded in 2011. Our headquarters is in Boyds, Maryland. We currently have about 37 full-time and part-time staff members back east. 70% of that staff is veteran connected, so they're either veterans, spouses, or immediate family. We have approximately, across all of our sites, we have approximately 800 volunteers per year. We have somewhat more than 10 program locations in 3 states, 10 formal and several informal programs. And so far we've placed a little over 80 assistance dogs, and over 5,035 veterans have participated in formal and informal mission-based trauma recovery training, which is a style of dog training that we do. And we've conducted more than 12,000 veteran training sessions since we've started. And that photo is actually from just outside at the Veterans Memorial Senior Center. California, we currently have 2 staff members, myself and Shelly, who you've seen right over there. 50% of us are veteran connected. We have about 7 programs, which I'll get into a little bit later. In 2019, when there was mostly just me, we hired Shelly right towards the end, I think, of 2019. We saw 797, we did 797 hours of service with veterans in 2020, which was really rough. We had to pivot and go do a lot of virtual sessions as well. And we were able to increase that to 819 hours. And we had, that year we were working with 6 different service dogs, and 2 service dogs got placed in California. So we were still able to sort of work around quite a bit of the things that COVID, the roadblocks that COVID threw for us. And now because of that, we also have a really great virtual video series that we use with some of our veterans as well, even after COVID. And California sessions now are mostly in person and held outdoors, including at the Veterans Memorial Senior Center, but we do have a couple of virtual sessions going on still as well for those that aren't super comfortable working with us in person. So these are our programs. In Maryland, we're working with the National Intrepid Center of Excellence. We're working at Walter Reed Medical Center. And then we also see veterans at the Healing Quarters in Boyds, Maryland. We also work with Veterans Treatment Court in Maryland, and we do some work with the Cohen Military Family Clinic. And all 3 of our 4 sites are now working with the Wounded Warrior Project, which is really exciting for us because they're another great organization that helps veterans. So North Carolina, you can see some of our things. So in California, the programs that we work with we work with Menlo Park VA. So we work with homeless veterans in recovery. We work with substance abuse veterans in recovery. At the Palo Alto VA, we work in PTRIP, which is Polytrauma Rehabilitation Program. So we work there with veterans who are working on different types of treatments. We work both in Veterans Treatment Court for San Mateo and San Francisco, and for them we provide community service that's very meaningful to the veterans that choose to do that community service with us. We also work with veterans at Stanford University. We have a provider referral program. So we don't just take anybody, we have to have somebody refer a veteran to us. And then again, we're working with Wounded Warrior Project. Our Colorado program is on hold, but we have plans to start it back when it makes sense to do so. So one of the things that we do is we breed, raise, and train Golden and Labrador Retrievers to be service dogs. We place those dogs in the service of veterans at no charge, and they're placed to assist with mobility or psychological disabilities. It's a 2-year training program, and dogs learn between 60 and 80 commands. One of the things I love about this program is that on the way to their final destination, the dogs impact between 50 to 60 different veterans during their training, and I'll explain a little bit more about that later. And we have multiple career options for the dogs as well, which we'll get to also. So what is mission-based trauma recovery? So it's based on the time-honored tradition of warriors helping warriors. So in this case, we have veterans learning how to train dogs and then helping us train those dogs for service work. It engages warriors to help us train the dogs. Some of those are recovering from post-traumatic stress disorder themselves and traumatic brain injury. Some of them are recovering from substance use disorders. We also provide it as a community service through Veterans Treatment Court or through community-based programs like Swords to Plowshares and Wounded Warrior Project. The mission is always the same though. It's to help us train highly skilled service dogs that will provide years of mobility and social support to veterans with disabilities. So how has the VMSC helped us? So all of these photos are from the Veterans Memorial Senior Center, and these are some of the veterans that we've worked with. Bruce has connected us with the Girl Scouts, so we were able to give a talk to some of the Girl Scouts and share with them a little bit about what we've learned. We've worked indoors and outdoors. In the upper right, we have a community of some of our Stanford veterans where we went to movie night. And these things are really helpful because when our dogs have public access, they need to know how to behave in public in all different kinds of situations. And one of the wonderful things about the Veterans Memorial Senior Center is it's a diverse and reliable and safe place to train. It helps us with community and connection. They've got movie theater for outings. Many of you know Bruce and possibly August and maybe a couple of the other staff. It's always has a friendly and supportive staff, and they believe in our mission. And so it's really, we are so fortunate to be able to work with the Veterans Memorial Senior Center because it really does help us produce well-rounded dogs. And then here's a little video of us doing a very quick train, like it's like 30 seconds of us doing a train session with a veteran at the Veterans Memorial Senior Center.
Climbing that mountain, getting to the top, taking my time, but I ain't gonna stop singing. The tide is getting high, but I ain't gonna drown. I feel right to the top. If you try to hold me down, singing. You can push me down, but I get up again. I ain't gonna stop. Ain't gonna stop. I ain't gonna stop.
So you can see that some of the things I explain and demonstrate, and then the veteran actually does the training with the dogs. And one of the ways that benefits the dogs is dogs don't generalize well. So it helps them learn that the rules are the same from person to person. It helps them bond more quickly when they're with their final veteran because they learn that many, many good things come from our service members. And it also helps them figure out that, the commands are the same also from person to person. So some of the service dog tasks include learning to walk nicely on a leash. That's probably one of the most important tasks for a service dog. Another one is greeting strangers on a leash. So we're one of the few organizations that does allow our dogs to meet strangers. Part of the reason for that is because post-traumatic stress disorder often has the symptom of isolation. And so we actually want the dog to help reduce that symptom by being social lubricant. So We teach the dogs how to interact with the public. They sit facing their handlers while somebody pets them. We teach them to open the refrigerator door, retrieve bottles of water. That's a very good mobility task. We can expose them to the public, including lots of new places, sounds, or sights, because we want them to be confident and comfortable in any environment that they might be in. Some dogs will learn how to pull a wheelchair. We only do that kind of thing once they've had their hips and elbows x-rayed to make sure that they're physically sound for that kind of task, as well as they have to be old enough for their growth plates to have finished closing. We'll teach them to do things like turn on a light switch. We practice grooming. It's important for the dog to be able to be comfortable being touched by everyone. We teach them to retrieve items off the ground. We can teach them to do nightmare interruption. And we also teach them some post-traumatic stress disorder stress cues, like if a person's pacing, if they've got their head in hands, their legs shaking, foot tapping the ground. And we teach some of the PTSD stress cues, regardless if the dog is going for mobility or PTSD, because it's fair to say that everyone gets stressed out once in a while. And it's nice to have a dog that knows what to do and knows how to help somebody through that situation. So how does one dog help more than 60 veterans? And that's kind of the crux of our program, which is, we'll start with a special puppy. Our dogs are purpose bred back east. We are also part of a breeding cooperative to help diversify the gene pool. Our dogs are selected for temperament, strength, and health. We socialize the puppy with more than 100 puppy petters. The puppy petting happens back east. So if you ever move back east to Maryland and you want to be a puppy petter, there's a special training program for that as well. We also carefully socialize them so that they're comfortable in a lot of different situations. And socialization is the most important time to do it is between 8 and 16 weeks, but then you also have to continue doing it ongoing to help the dogs stay comfortable with what they got exposed to. Our puppy petters are active military and veterans, recovering warriors, and civilian volunteers. So the veterans and active duty service members that volunteer with our program, training the dogs help them cope with post-deployment challenges. And it can help with learning how to be positive, which can help improve relationships and families. So some of the ways you want to communicate with our dogs is very similar to healthy and encouraging ways that you'd want to communicate with family members. Training a dog for a veteran can give a sense of purpose. I had one of the homeless veterans I was working with at one point said that this was the first time that he was able to do something for someone else in a really long time, and that it felt really good. The dog can help reduce anxiety. I've seen this the most in Veterans Treatment Court when a veteran's been working with a dog long enough, and I ask them if they want to take the dog up with them to see the judge, and they do, and they say that it helps them feel better quite a bit. By exposing the dogs to new environments, they can bring themselves out of isolation. I had a veteran that had not taken public transportation for probably 20 years because of he actually hadn't even been in a car. And so one of the things that we just started with is, helping the dog get comfortable. And so we just sit at the bus stop and watch the buses go by while we worked on dog training. And so it can help sometimes start to decrease some of those isolation or avoidance behaviors. And in teaching the dog that the world is a safe enough place, sometimes they learn that for themselves too. It's also been it's often easier to do something for someone else than it is for yourself. And many of our veterans have reported that as well. So the veterans in our programs are the 50 to 60 veterans that are also touched and benefited by the dog before they reach their final destination. So once the dog is placed, that dog, a veteran with a disability will receive a fully trained service dog. And that service dog has touched lots of different people's lives. Now, not all of the dogs make it as service dogs, and we'll talk about placement a little bit later. So how do we know how our training programs have affected our veterans? So one of the things we do is we actually give them some questionnaires to fill out before and after our training sessions. So we ask them about their pain levels before and after. We ask them about their stress and anxiety before and after, and we ask them about their overall mood before and after, as well as their level of satisfaction with the content and their personal progress. So some of the results, these results are from June 2017 to March of 2021, and these are results. They're mostly in-person sessions, but some of them are from our virtual sessions as well. So 64% reported an improved mood, 31% reported no change in mood, and 5% reported a decrease in mood. For stress, 64% reported a decrease in stress, 33% reported no change, and 3% reported an increase in stress. And some of that could be sometimes if you have a dog where you really need to use a lot of patience, or they're younger and they really don't know anything, sometimes that in itself can be stressful. And at the same time, it's also a learning moment that, one, learning is stressful, two, we can handle it, and we can get through it. And then pain, so 67% reported no change in pain, 2% did not respond, 2% reported an increase in pain, and 29% reported a decrease in pain. So sometimes the increase in pain could be if they sit too long or if they stand too long, and we can sometimes go back and ask them like, hey, is there something that we can be doing differently so that you're not in pain during these sessions? And sometimes that's actually just how their life is, but sometimes there is something that we can do differently that will help. So some of what our veterans have said: when I first started working with the dogs in program a year ago, I did not know how to imitate joy. It has been an introspective journey. I feel more comfortable interacting with most people throughout the day as a result of the training the dogs have given me. Every week I get to spend a quality hour practicing positive reinforcement. I do not have much life experience with the concept of positive reinforcement outside of the Warrior Canine Connection. Thank you for encouraging me to continue working with the dogs as I move toward the end of my veterans treatment court. Another veteran has said that it feels like I'm making a contribution to help train a service animal that could make a real difference in someone's life. As an added bonus, I get to learn about animal training and experience a joyful connection that provides a balance to schoolwork. So that was one of our Stanford veterans, and Shelley's going to share with you 2 links to some things that our Stanford students have written in their Stanford newsletter and the Stanford Daily. Another veteran shared that this program is a great experience, and I've told people about the great work you do. The training has been helpful with learning all sorts of skills, not only for the dogs, but myself as well. One of the things that our veterans report learning quite a bit is patience. And so you can imagine having patience, especially if you have children, and small children is a really, really useful thing to have. So this video, it's one thing to hear it from me, but I'm going to share a video with you that talks about Jake Young, who both had applied for a service dog, and he also went through some of our MBTR, mission-based trauma recovery dog training with us. So I'm going to hit play somehow. There we go.
Service members and veterans who are in treatment for post-traumatic stress and traumatic brain injury are helping us to train mobility service dogs for fellow veterans.
And they were right at the point that they were talking to my wife about putting me in a home to live there full time, that I wouldn't be able to live on my own. It very quickly became a no-fail mission. Lundy and I kind of right away clicked. Just having Lundy sleep in the bed with me I was getting full nights of sleep. I had to make sure that my speech was clear. I had to mark his commands, good or bad. I had to anticipate what was coming down the hallways. Those challenges were what kind of got my processor working again.
Dogs have to be exposed to the community. When service members who are otherwise isolating take these dogs out into public settings to train them, it just naturally draws other people to that veteran and creates these natural interactions.
The nurses started making comments, hey, your speech is getting better. Did you realize your pain level had dropped down 1 or 2? Out of all of the various therapies that I went through, it's the one thing that I can put my finger on and say, this is what turned things around for me.
For us, Lindy represents, he gave us our life back. He gave Jake his life back. He gave him a sense of purpose, a true change in his emotional presence. And to our family, it gave me my husband back. It gave our kids their father back.
It's not one service dog for one veteran. It's one service dog taking care of 60, 70, 80 different patients that really, truly makes a difference.
So, and if you'd like to see that video again, Shelly's going to put a link to it in the chat. So that sort of brings us to the human-animal bond. As you can tell, that veteran really, really felt bonded with his dog. And the human-animal bond is something that we've started studying in research as well. It's a mutually beneficial and dynamic relationship between people and animals that is influenced by behaviors essential to the health and well-being of both. So this includes, among other things, emotional, psychological, and physical interactions of people, animals, and the environment. We think that this has developed, that we have such a strong bond with dogs in particular, because we have over 30,000 years of coevolution, and we're uncertain of exactly when and exactly how. There are a couple of different theories as to how things might have evolved, and there are maybe even a couple of different ways that things might have evolved. But in general, we think it was a mutually beneficial relationship that likely started from necessity and utility. Co-hunting with net wins eventually became an emotional bond, and we both produce oxytocin. And I'll talk a little bit more about oxytocin, but it's a bonding hormone, and it's probably really important and as to why some of what we do works really well. Dogs have developed a unique ability to read human intent. They're actually better at it than chimpanzees and bonobos. And puppies as early as 8 weeks can start to sort of read our facial expressions and some of our intent as well. We have a long history of working side by side with human and canine partners. So dogs have worked with us for protection, hunting, herding, military roles, police, assistance dogs, medical and substance detection work as well. So if a couple of really great books on what dogs can do. One is called Dog Sense by John Bradshaw, and it gives a really nice history of our coevolution with dogs. And then another book is called Dr. Dogs, which talks a lot about the really cool medical stuff that dogs can do for us, from seizure detection to even sniffing out Parkinson's. So dogs are a really important part of humanity's evolution. So oxytocin, that's a hormone that both dogs and humans produce. It plays a role in social bonding, reproduction, childbirth, and more. If you hug a person for, I think it's like 7 seconds or more, and it's a person you like, or you have a family affiliation with, you will actually start producing oxytocin from that hug as well. It is thought to assist with pro-social behaviors like trust, and it's nicknamed the tend and befriend hormone. Both humans and dogs produce oxytocin and can produce oxytocin when seen or interacting with each other. So that's one of the things that we think happens when, we know it happens when our dogs and veterans interact with each other. And when the more of a relationship they have with each other, the more oxytocin is produced. Oxytocin can induce anti-stress-like effects such as reduction of blood pressure and cortisol levels. Sorry about that. It can increase pain thresholds. It can exert an anxiolytic-like effect and stimulates, which means like painkiller type effect, and stimulates various types of positive social interactions. In addition, it can promote growth and healing. Repeated exposure to oxytocin can cause long-lasting effects by influencing the activity of other transmitter systems, a pattern which makes oxytocin potentially clinically relevant. Oxytocin can be released by various types of non-noxious sensory stimulation, for example, touch and warmth. So, and it doesn't just happen with dogs, it's the hormone that bonds people with their children or spouses together as well. So this is just some of the research that has been done on oxytocin or the human-animal bond. I'm not going to talk about it because we don't have that much time, but if you wanted to just take a quick screenshot of it, you can take a screenshot. And then here's another page of just more information, right? Dog outperforms chimpanzees in reading human social cues. You would think our closest relatives might be better than dogs, but nope, dogs are better. And then there has also been some research on MBTR itself, the type of dog training we do. And so Shelley can share a link to this article, but this is a little excerpt. MBTR's stress coping effects were reflected in cardiac measures taken during research sessions. These showed improvements in participants' heart rate variability, the heart's ability to respond to and recover from stressful experiences. This key nervous system function has been shown to be dysregulated by PTSD. Participants' heart rate variability measures showed significant improvement within 10 minutes and at the end of the first and last MBTR sessions. Attendance and retention in WCC's program offer encouraging support for the acceptability of the MBTR model and the feasibility of offering it as an adjunctive therapy in a clinic facility. So other things that can help your heart rate variability include meditation, can help very well as exercise. And I'm sure there are other things, but those are the only two things that come to mind at the moment. So one of the things that we target in our training, some of the things we target in our training are meaningful and purposeful activity, forming healthy relationships. When we have groups of veterans together, sometimes they can bond with each other as well. Effective communication, because if we're not clearly communicating to the dogs don't understand what we want. Emotional regulation and intelligence. So dogs often pick up on what we're feeling. And so we can sometimes influence a dog's emotional state through a process called synchronization. And that's, if we start getting excited, the dog will start getting excited. And if we start calming down, the dog will start calming down. We target isolation and avoidance. We also relate it back to parenting and family relationships, as well as mindfulness. Just the act of grooming a dog, you can practice mindfulness with your 5 senses, well, 4 of your 5 senses, touch, smell, hearing. I don't remember the other ones at the moment, sorry. You don't want to taste the dog. That's the one thing you don't want to use. You don't want to use that 5th sense there. Other ways for mindfulness is you want to be in the moment with the dog to help them succeed. So types of placements. So we have 5 main types of placements. Service dog, which is our highest placement. That's our biggest goal for anything. And the wash rate nationally is it's about 50%. So of dogs that don't make it as a service dog. So we have several different placement types. And that's also what makes our program amazing, is because even if a dog doesn't make it, like, they've still helped multiple people along the way. So all of our placements we try to do in service to a veteran. So we have service dog placements, which is our #1 goal. We have military family support dog, which is, those dogs are trained in all of the same skills as a service dog, but there's just something about them that means they shouldn't have public access. Like, maybe they like to chase squirrels a little bit too much, or there's too dog distracted, or they don't like new environments. And so legally they fall under the category of ESA, emotional support animals. So ESAs do not have public access. Facility dogs are another type of placement that we have. And a facility dog is a dog that works at one location, but provides support to multiple people within that location. So for example, Frank, the facility dog at the shelter Home First, one of the things he's helping to do is make it a little bit more like a home-like environment. Having a dog, having somebody that's always happy to see you no matter what, can be really encouraging for people in a tough situation. We also have some of our dogs go to a breeding program. And then there are the release dogs. The release dogs don't quite make it as any of the other placement types, but we still try to place those dogs with a veteran family. Because, right, it's really nice to have a dog that's pretty well trained, right? It's not, you know, there's something about the dog where they just didn't choose the work. So a little bit about service dogs. So how do service dogs differ from other support type dogs? So we've got a little chart on the right. So service dogs, the American Disabilities Act is covered the right to bring an animal into public establishments. You cannot do that with therapy dogs, which is most facility dogs, and you cannot do that with emotional support animals. The one exception with facility dogs is if the therapist at a facility is taking a client into public with a dog as part of the client's therapeutic treatment, then the dog can have public access, but that's the only exception with facility dogs. So service dogs need to be able to tolerate a wide variety of experiences, as do therapy and facility dogs. Emotional support dogs don't, because emotional support dogs don't have public access. They're only allowed to go where pets are allowed to go. Service dogs and emotional support animals may live with their disabled owners, even if there's a no pets policy in place. That is not the case with facility dogs because the handler is not disabled in any way. For an emotional support animal, you need a letter from your doctor to present to your living situation. There are some exceptions, I believe, with apartment units under 6 units for emotional support animals, but I don't believe those exceptions are in place for service dogs. If the primary function of the dog is to provide emotional support through companionship, that's an emotional support animal. If the dog is specifically trained to assist just one person, that's a service dog. And dogs that provide emotional support and comfort to many people, that's a facility dog or a therapy dog. So under the American Disability Act, state and local government, businesses, and nonprofit organizations that serve the public generally must allow service animals to be accompanying individuals with disabilities in all areas of the facility where the public is normally allowed to go. There are no registries or papers required. So if somebody is saying, oh, you need to show your papers, that's because too many people have basically gotten papers for a fake dog, usually. That's not always the case, but it is not required. So if you have a service dog, you do not need to bring papers with it. What you do need is you need to have either training logs from a dog that was placed by an organization, or if you owner trained, you need those training logs in case it ever does come up in a court of law, but that's not something you need to present to the average business. Businesses are only allowed to ask, is the dog a service animal required because of a disability? And what work or task has the dog been trained to perform? They can't ask you what your disability is. So what is, again, continuing, what is the role of the service dog? Some of the tasks that service dogs are trained to do, they're trained to guide people who are blind. So it's especially important to never distract a service dog, especially if there's somebody's eyes. So if you see dogs and you're like, oh, hey, cute dog, like you might actually be distracting them from their work, and they could miss an alert. They could, not be paying as much attention as they should. Dogs are not robots. They're just like us in terms of like things in the environment can distract them. They're trained to a high level, but if you think about it, if somebody like comes up to you and says, oh my gosh, I'm so happy to see you, like you're usually going to pay attention to them. So it's really important to not do that with a service dog. They alert people who are deaf. They can pull wheelchairs. They can alert and give aid to a person who is having a seizure. Some dogs can actually even predict seizures. Reminding a person with mental illness to take prescribed medication. Calming a person with post-traumatic stress disorder during an anxiety attack. So there are specific tasks that dogs are trained to do that can help reduce anxiety, can help stimulate the vagus nerve, things like that. And then they can also assist with mobility-related tasks. Service animals are working animals and not pets. So you can also think of it like you wouldn't ask to pet somebody's cane or wheelchair. So, we kind of want to give service dogs the same amount of respect that you would a cane or a wheelchair. By the same token, a service dog should be as unobtrusive as somebody's cane or wheelchair. So I'll get into that a little bit later. The work or task a dog has been trained to provide must be directly related to the person's disability. Dogs whose sole function is to provide comfort or emotional support do not qualify under the ADA as service animals. And that means like an emotional support animal cannot go with a person to the grocery store. A dog may be asked to leave if the animal is out of control and the handler does not take effective action to control the dog, or if it is not housebroken, that animal may be excluded. But if the animal is asked to leave, the business still has to make accommodations for that person in order to get their needs met. So how to get a service dog. So there are a couple of different options. You can own or train your own dog. I typically advised against that because unless you're a professional dog trainer or have a lot of dog training experience, the wash rate is very high. Wash rate just means the rate at which dogs don't meet the criteria for being a service dog. If you're insistent on owner training your own dog, I recommend applying to every organization that the Assistance Dog International has available to you. So that way, if your dog does not qualify by the end of the 2 years that you spend training them, that you are still on a wait list for another organization. And you may just end up with 2 great dogs. So one which you can take everywhere with you to assist with a disability, but the other one has to stay home. So Shelley, I think maybe just posted the Assistance Dog International link. They're basically an organization that accredits and oversees different service dog organizations to make sure that they're all performing at a certain standard and that those animals pass tests. I've also included a link to applying for a service dog or a military family support dog or a facility dog with Warrior Canine Connection. And so those are some of the options for getting a dog. One of the other things to keep in mind is if you're a veteran and you need a service dog for mobility, and you get that service dog through an Assistance Dog International accredited organization, the VA will help you cover medical expenses for that dog. They will not do that for owner trained dogs though. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Our final thought is we actually name all of our dogs in honor of service members and veterans. And so if you have a service member or veteran that's close to you, we do have a way of honoring that person. And so Shelley's going to post a link to that. But basically, having service dogs in training named after a veteran or service member, each dog will bring awareness to the inspiring service of their namesake while helping to heal the invisible wounds of recovering warriors. When the dogs are placed, sometimes what happens is a special bond will be created between the veteran service dog recipient and the warriors their canine partners were named after. It's critical though that you get permission from the nominee or the family members of anyone nominated for this honor. And lastly, ways you can help. So if you love Warrior Canine Connection as much as I do, there are lots of ways that you can help. There's always donated money. This is what some of the money can go for. It can go to provide leashes, flea and tick medication, a customized vest, vaccines. It can buy puppy starter programs. It can provide spaying or neutering. We neuter and spay all of our dogs before they're placed at their final destinations. It can also buy veterinary care for a puppy during its training. So dogs have yearly veterinary expenses, both for checkups, regular checkups, getting cleared to work at places like the VA.
I'm not on yet. No, it is, but
or other things. And then if you want to make a major gift, we would love that, of course. And you can contact our director of development or myself or Shelley. We have a couple different ways that you can donate as well. We have an Amazon wish list for Menlo Park. We also have a California specific donation page and a headquarters, like a WCC broader donation page. Volunteering is another way to help. So we sometimes need puppy raisers or puppy sitters. If you're on the East Coast or you know someone on the East Coast near Boyd's, Maryland, we have a puppy petting program. We often need administrative support in a multitude of ways, and sometimes kennel attendance as well, which is something that's more frequently needed back east, as we only have 3 to 4 dogs at a time out here. And then other ways to help get the word out, let other people know about us, hold a community fundraising event. You can also organize, if you have a group of people that you like to work with, you can even organize to come to headquarters for a volunteer project as well. And so our final thing I'm gonna ask you guys to do is if you could fill out this post-session form where it says video, just select 20 and training location, California. So this is just sort of how you're feeling right now after watching our presentation. And Shelly just posted that link in the comments as well. And then we are available for Q&A. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop the slideshow. Does anybody have any questions?
I can see the chat, but I can't see any links. I can't see the photos or the videos or anything. And I can see, you know, the boxes when you're speaking, but that's it. That's not your problem, but just to let you know,
So when, I mean, if you, one of our forms,
access.
Yeah, one of our forms are demographic. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, one of our forms are demographic form. Tina sent out in the email to get to share the Zoom link. You can fill that out, and what the other thing I can do is I can just email everyone that fills that out. I can email you guys all of the links that we posted in the chat as well.
Okay.
And also Tina has recorded the entire session. So you can go back to travando.com and rewatch this. It may take a week or so because I believe they edited it up a little bit, but it'll all be in there.
Great. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Tina and Bruce, for inviting us to do this presentation. And thank you, Bruce, for your continued support of the Warrior Canine Connection. No problem. That's our pleasure. This is one of those things I told you from the beginning, that this is a veteran service, and that's part of the mission of the Veterans Memorial Senior Center, is that we do veteran groups and they do get first priority here. So our pleasure, and thank you for doing what you do for so many special people, Alexa, for our country.
Are you going to show us a dog?
Yes.
Yeah, I want to see.
Thank you for the reminder. I'm gonna get Walter out. Oh, yeah, puppy cam, and yeah, right after. All right, so I'm gonna fix my camera so you guys can hopefully, well, you'll be able to see me even if you can't see me. Walter, come here. Hey, buddy. Walter. Here? Yes.
Oh.
Good boy. And I think we might have a better angle if we put my camera on the floor. Let's see. There we go. All right. So one of the things we want the dogs to do is we want them to get themselves dressed. So the only support they'll have from us is we hold the vest. Yes. They put it on themselves. And then Shelly, can you actually just hold it so that it, yeah. And then I'll actually demo Walter opening the fridge. I don't know if he'll be able to get that bottle of water because it's pretty big. Here, Walter, here. That's it. Good boy. Tug. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. Yes.
Wow.
Good boy, buddy. That bottle might be too big for him. Get it. Give. That's it. That's it. That's it. Yeah, it's a little too big for him. I usually have smaller water bottles available for him. Actually, you know what? He can retrieve a Coke. So here. Good boy. Tug. That's it. Yes. Good boy. That's it. That's it. Good boy. Get it? That's it, buddy. Did you get it? Oops, sorry, bud. Right there. That's it. So we're still obviously working on that a little bit. Get it. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. Right there, buddy. You can do it. Walter. That's it. No, you can't? Okay. Well, let's just have you close the door for us. So that's obviously he's still in training. Walter, touch. So he's got the opening and the closing of it down.
That's great.
Boy, Walter.
I'll show you some of the stress cues that we do with the dogs. So one of the things that we do is head and hands. So Shelly, can you come over to you for a second? Walter, here. So everybody gets depressed every once in a while. So one of the things we do is we teach the dogs to break away a person's hands. And we don't, yes, good boy. We don't give them a cue at all. We just want that to be like a physical response that they notice. And Shelly, can you distract him again? Walter, here. That's it. And so I'm tapping my leg. I don't know if you guys can see it. And his job is to come put his chin on my leg. Yes.
Oh.
So, right, as a way to interrupt that anxiety. Good boy, buddy. And then he can also do a lap. So this is where he sits. This is sometimes called deep pressure therapy, where you guys have heard of weighted blankets off.
Yes.
So it's a similar concept as a weighted blanket. Go in. Yes. So go in is something you want them to do at restaurants. You want them to stay in that position. That helps get them out of the way and keep them out of the way. So he's not going to get stepped on here, but he's in far. He can see me if I need him to do something. Here. Yes. Good boy. And he can do all kinds of things. Sit. Good. Actually, let's do this so that you're facing the camera, buddy. Come here. Walk. Here. Good. Sit. Good. Down.
Oh.
Good. Roll. And so roll is basically where he goes on his side and shows me his belly, so that if I want to check out his tummy, I can. Let's see. Heel. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. Yes. So he can also walk backwards. Back.
Oh.
Yes. Good boy, buddy. So he's actually about to go back east for advanced training. Here. Good boy. I'll take his vest off.
Thank you so much, Alexis. This is amazing. Thank you, Walter.
Thank you. And then we'll go ahead and put that back. And then Shelly, if you could put Walter back.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Alexis.
Thank you. And oh, just real quick, I know most everybody's on mute. Are there any veterans in the audience? That's okay. It's okay if not. I was just curious. But thank you guys so much. And we appreciate everything that you do in support of the Veterans Memorial Senior Center, because they support us and we could not do this without you guys.
Love the puppy playroom camera.
Oh yeah.
That's
Yeah.
enough to take stress off anybody.
Right?
Yes.
So the link that we will be sending out in the email is a link to our 24/7 puppy cam back east. So you'll be able to watch puppies 24/7.
Great. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Thanks, Alexis.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.